Hey everybody, happy Wednesday evening live tutorial stream. How's everybody doing this Christmas week? Yes, it is the week of that holiday that we in retail both adore and also dread for the entire year. Thankfully, we've almost survived the entire Christmas season. We've got, 2.5 more days, no, 1.5 more days. It depends on if you count today as over or not, but we got 1.5 more days, and then I can bash my camera with my freaking elbow. Yeah, and then it's time to rest a little bit. So thank you all so much for joining us. Thank you. Hey Pam, hey Free Play Arcade, it's so nice to see you out there. ASO, Lori, oh my god, Lori, where she's at tonight is going to get minus 27 degrees Fahrenheit. And this, each and every one of you, is why I live in Texas. Hey, Mary. And was there an Amy or was that a mistype, Lori? Anyway, hi everybody, welcome to the stream. So this week's stream is focusing on those of, or is geared towards those of us who may potentially be considering membership in Procrastinators Anonymous. Personally, oh hi Amy. Personally, I'm gonna look into that probably next week, maybe the week after. But we're focusing on holiday gifts that you can make with things that you might have lying around your house or in your stash. So tonight's project is our assemblage. Wow, tonight's project is Allison didn't change the photo. I really thought I did, y'all. Let's try that again. Alright, so 1, 2, 3, and lag. There we go. That's actually the project for tonight. Also, hey, wow, like 5 more viewers. So y'all are awesome for hanging out with us tonight. And we are going to, yes, assemble this assemblage necklace. So the cool thing about this particular necklace is you can, it's basically geared towards, that's not what we're doing. That's what we're doing later at 7:30. Oh, sorry y'all, Christmas season. Holy balls. Excuse me, sorry. I had cheese earlier, so I'm going to be doing a lot of that during the broadcast. Also, Free Play, good luck with your podcast. Thank you so much for stopping in to show some love. It is much appreciated. So, right. Okay, so the whole point of this week's tutorials is, okay, you forgot that you had to make your, best friend's cousin Sally a holiday present, and now at this point it's about to be the 23rd of December. You cannot order anything and have it get here in time, and so basically you are in survival mode. You are in Jewelry Survivor at this point with what is in your stash. And so this necklace is totally adaptable to whatever the heck. Oops, there's no Heather tonight. She's in Houston. We'll talk about that on the sales stream. But so whatever you happen to have in your stash, you can repurpose to make this particular piece. So what do you need to make this? Let's talk tools and supplies. Okay, you're gonna need chain. If you don't have at least 2 feet of chain in your stash, you can just listen to me talk and not plan on making this for Christmas. You could make this for some other holiday or just for no reason at all. But you do need, that's the big thing that you need, is you need about 2 feet of chain, because you need enough to go around the neck, and then you need enough for all of the little dangling bits. So 2 feet or no, unfortunately, Houston did not steal Heather. Heather had a family emergency and had to abruptly go to Houston to take care of family house and pets and possibly nieces, whilst her brother and sister-in-law went to Washington State due to a sudden death in the family. So unfortunately, it's just not appearing to be a good, including myself, there's just so much crappy stuff that's happening right around this particular holiday. It's really unfortunate. So I'm so happy to have all of you guys to hang out with tonight to cheer me up and remind me that there are really cool people out there on the internet. So you do need at least 2 feet of chain. Again, you need enough to go around the neck, and you need enough for all your dangling bits. You're going to need a clasp, and a toggle clasp is gonna work best in this particular design because you can put it in the front and you can hang all the cool stuff off of it. And then you're gonna need random bits and pieces of things, and this is where it's kind of fun because you're like, oh, I've had this piece of a vintage earring for 15 years and I never knew what to do with it. Oh my god, this agate, I know that my, best friend's cousin Sally would love this. Citrine, oh, she was born in November, that's her birthstone. Oh look, here's 2 random charms that I just found on my work table. All your dangling bits. And so you can do as many or as few dangling bits as you want. I will say that there's a weird point between like 1 and like 4. So 1 dangling bit actually does look really cool. So if you've got something that's memorable, that is sentimental, like, okay, this was great Aunt Georgina's earring. Yes, I'm totally pulling names out of my ass. Like it's like 3 days before Christmas. Please do not be expecting optimal brain function from me at this point. But anyway, so, you have 1 sentimental piece. This is great Aunt Georgina's earring. This is whatever. You can do this with 1 dangling bit. Okay, 2 is a little awkward. So I would highly recommend maybe not 2, but then you get to 3, and 3's fine. 3's cool. So you can have great Aunt Georgina's earring, and then, your giftie's birthstone and the cool agate that you think they would like. Or you can just, go whole hog and go with 5 or even go with 7. Again, first of all, don't hold the dang thing backwards on camera so you can see the pretty part of great Aunt Georgina's earring. Hi, Sophia! Also, I do not have a great Aunt Georgina. This is just, once again, pulling names out of my ass. But So the point here is you can customize this for whatever you happen to have around. Okay, it's that time of the year, y'all, where you're like, holy balls, I'm screwed, and I need to make do with whatever I have to make a good showing, or whatever, make people happy. Yes, gifting is to make people happy, but if you're a maker, there's also a certain amount of pride in gift giving, so you don't want to let yourself down either, and oftentimes us makers are actually harder on ourselves than any of our giftees are. So any of you who are doing that to yourselves this holiday season, you should cut that right out. But this is, again, one of those projects where when you're having that OF moment, you can really customize it to whatever you have, and it's actually a really fun necklace. Like it actually looks really cute on, and is a really great gift. So again, tools and supplies. Okay, so Amy's actually gone, she's passed me up in the Christmas ennui. I didn't even know that was possible. Amy, like, cheers to you. Because I thought I was peak Christmas ennui, but Amy is like, what if you no longer care if you have gifts? If you no longer care if you have gifts, then you know what you should do? You should drink a dang margarita and put your feet up. Cuddle a cat if one is available to you. Maybe watch, The Witcher on Netflix because season 2 dropped, and oh my god, Henry Cavill, dirty, amazing. Yeah, like, if you really legitimately don't care about having Christmas gifts, then you can just stay here for the chit chat and the hijinks, and then not even bother with the actual gift making. But for anybody who does want to learn how to make the assemblage necklace, again, okay, tools and supplies, I kind of got derailed. So 24 inches of chain. Obviously that's going to be a little variable depending on how many dangly bits you have. Clasp preferably a toggle clasp. Like this one, and you want one that's fairly sizable. You don't want a teeny tiny one. So this one's about the size of a nickel. You're going to need, of course, all of your dangling things, whatever those are going to be. So I have an assortment of things here tonight. I also have my little vintage box to see what's in there, and then you're also going to need the means to attach anything. Oh my gosh. If only I could just host a Witcher watching party. I feel like that would be much more enjoyable than my actual job. But yeah, wow. If you haven't, do it, because wow, it's good. You're gonna need the means to attach all of your dangling bits. So anything like this, or this is gonna get attached with a jump ring. Any beads that are straight drilled through like this is going to get attached to a head pin, or by a head pin. If you have anything that's got a hole through it or is top drilled, that's going to get attached with wire. I did not grab anything like that, so sorry anybody who was really dying to know how to do this. You're going to have to watch another tutorial. Everything that gets attached to your toggle clasp is going to get attached with jump rings, as are your chains. So you're going to need your chain, your clasp, your dangling bits. You're going to need a bunch of jump rings. And let's talk for just a minute about jump rings. Thank you, Free Play, for the offer of the lesson. I shall consider it. Also, apparently, I drew on my hand today. Who knew that? So let's talk about jump rings. You want to make sure your jump rings are appropriately thick for, which equates to being sturdy enough to do what you want them to do. So these are 20 gauge jump rings. I routinely do not use anything that is smaller or thinner than a 20 gauge. Also, for anybody who's not familiar with wire gauges, the smaller the number, the thinner the wire. So 20 gauge jump rings, nice and sturdy. 18 gauge jump rings, admirably sturdy. 22 gauge jump rings, little flimsy. So as the numbers get bigger, you want to kind of steer away from that as far as jump rings go. So what I've got is I have a whole bunch of 6mm 20 gauge jump rings that I'm going to use this evening. I've got some head pins because I have some through drilled beads that I'm going to attach to this. So I've got head pins, I've got jump rings, I've got charms, and I have chain. I've got a toggle clasp. As far as tools go, you're going to need your basics, which are going to be your round nose, your chain nose, and I actually have a flat nose tonight. Chain nose or flat nose will work, and a wire cutter. Okay, so those are your tools that you're going to need tonight, and head pins. And do I need wire? I've got some 24 gauge wire. I may or may not need that depending on how my necklace comes together. Okay, so we're going to start with our chain. Now, however long you want your necklace, don't forget that your toggle is going to add a little bit of length to it. So when you're cutting your chain for your necklace, you want to make sure you cut just slightly less than the size that you want. So for instance, if you want an 18-inch necklace, like this toggle is going to add about an inch. And honestly, if you want to know how much length your toggle is going to add, I kid you not, it's literally as easy as putting it on a ruler. Now when you're calculating for that, your bar doesn't really add anything, because see how it sits inside the loop. So this one's actually adding about 3/4 of an inch. I'm just going to round that up to an inch for ease of measuring. So if I want an 18-inch necklace, I'm going to go ahead and cut 17 inches of my chain. The reason that I'm okay with that rounding situation is because 12 plus 5 is 17 inches. The reason I'm okay with that rounding situation is because I've also got the jump rings that are going to attach the chain to the clasp, and so I'm perfectly happy with 17 inches plus my 3/4 inch clasp plus 2 6mm jump rings, getting really close to being 18 inches, possibly even a little bit over. And then I'm going to go ahead and do 5 little dangling bits tonight. And I did say I was going, oh dear, I did say I was going to look in my little vintage box here to see if I can find something exciting to hang from a piece. Just love collecting like little vintage bits of craziness and then figuring out how to use them later. And once again, this is, you know, if you've got family heirlooms and you've got pieces that, you know, belonged to, you know, this, that, or the third cousin or aunt or whatever, you know, it's a great way to repurpose them, because, you know, I'm sorry, but a lot of the vintage stuff like is not something that a lot of us would wear or, you know, would use, but in its original state. Like, for instance, this clip earring, yeah, never going to be on my ear ever. Never. But there's a really good chance at some point that I would make this into a pendant or use it on a necklace like the one I'm about to make. So it's really fun to kind of repurpose things and, you know, give them a new life. Okay, so I've got this piece of this vintage necklace. I think I'm going to use this if I can get it to come off. Get off of there. And this is another thing, and this is a fun and interesting debate that a friend of mine have often, is I tend to see pieces of jewelry, clothing, draperies, decorative items, whatever. I tend to see those as component parts to be assembled or to be used as is or disassembled to make something else, whereas she really kind of respects each thing as an entire entity, and she's way more reluctant to disassemble things. So, you know, that's absolutely a personal choice, but my thinking is don't be afraid to disassemble things. Nothing is sacred. Nothing, you know, it's better for it to be used than to sit in a box and be forgotten. I mean, I've got pieces of family costume jewelry that, you know, I can't disassemble, and literally I haven't looked at them for years. You know, if I had disassembled them or remade them into things that I, you know, loved and enjoyed, they would get more wear, they would get more use, and every time I looked at them I would remember my family members, as opposed to keeping them as is in their entirety in a box in my closet that I've moved I don't even know how many times. And honestly, right this second, I couldn't even tell you where in my house it is. So it does come down sometimes to a philosophical question. My philosophy is it's better for things to be used. So what I have here is I've got a piece off of a vintage necklace. It had a little attachment there that I just cut off. It's a little rough. It's not something that I really want to have against my skin or anybody else's skin, so I'm just going to take my file. I'm going to file that down real quick. Yes, this is in fact the nutmeg file, in case anybody's wondering. Also, I want to file the metal and not my fingernails, so. Okay, so I've just got that filed down. Hi, Megan. To the point where your package went out on Monday. By the way, everybody's packages went out on Monday, so you all should start receiving packages tomorrow. Tomorrow and Friday. Okay, so now that's filed down to the point where it's not going to murder anybody, which is nice. I've got this little vintage piece. I'm going to use a piece of turritella, aka some dead stuff. This cool Ganesha charm. And let's see, pyrite, and a little bit of color with this little blue Buddha, and I think that's what I'm gonna do. Yes, dead stuff, Mary, just for you. Look, you can really see the dead things in there. It's pretty neat. Yay, dead stuff. Okay, so now, I've decided I'm doing 5 little dangling bits. It definitely looks better if you graduate them. So there's 2 ways that you can work on figuring out this graduation. You can either count your links. So that's pretty much what I did on my sample. I did, you know, a 1, I did a couple of 2s, and then for some inexplicable reason I jumped to 5 and 6. So what? I did not hear about the dead stuff that made the news, but now I know what I'm going to be looking up in between streams. So what I probably should have done here was done essentially a 1, a 2, a 3, a 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and a 5 links. Now, that works great when you've got a nice big link like this that's easy to count. If you got a little link chain, measuring is better. So I'm going to go ahead and now cut my chains for my dangling bits, and I'm going to cut 1 link, 2 links, 3 links, 4 links, and 5 links. Yes, and that equals 5. So here we go. Alright, so 1 link, and then 2 links, 3 links, 4 links, and 5 links. Ah! No, okay. Hey mods, please smash the bots. Thank you, Mary, for using your sword of bananation. Yes, it's because we have the best mods, because our mods are amazing. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Those are my lengths of chain. Again, you can absolutely change this up however you want. If you want something more dramatic, awesome. Do, 1, 3, 5, 7, and 9 lengths of chain. If you want something that is smaller, you could actually do a 0. That's not the right phrase. So you could actually take, you could start with 0. You could start with taking, say, this one, and instead of putting it on 1 link of chain, you could put it directly onto your clasp. So remember, again, this is an easily scalable project. The whole idea of this week's projects is that these are things that you can easily create, hopefully using what you have in your stash, and easily adapt to whatever your needs are in order to get all of your Christmas gifting accomplished, again, if you still care about it. Once again, if you're like Amy and are at peak ennui, then just, kick back, have a margarita, and watch everyone else scramble like hamsters on hamster wheels. So let's start attaching our pieces onto our chains that we have cut. So that chain is going to go over there. So 2 feet of chain is a very rough estimate. Again, it's really going to depend on how long you want your necklace to be and how long you want your dangling bits to be. So I'm going to start attaching my accent pieces to my dangling bits of chain. So I've got those all laid out in front of me. And what I'm going to do here, and I know that you can't really see my work area, or I'm not really, my camera isn't focused on it, but I'm just going to lay these out, and I'm going to see what looks best as far as what pieces am I going to attach to what piece of chain. Like, for instance, this little vintagey piece is way long, so I don't think I'm going to attach that to the longest piece of chain. So that's going to be way longer than everything else. I think that's going to go there. I think the dead stuff is going on the longest piece of chain. I feel like the blue Buddha is going on the shortest one. The Ganesh is going to go there, and then the pirate is going to get kind of stuck in the middle. Okay, so now I sort of have an idea of what I want to do and how I want to do it. So, also, hey, more viewers. Nice to see y'all. Hope everyone's having a fantastic Wednesday night this Christmas week. Hope nobody has gotten caught in too many traffic jams or crazy retail scuffles. Not that I would know anything about that, being in retail or anything. Also, I seem to have misplaced my head pins. That's okay. So, what do you do when you've misplaced your head pins at, say, 2 a.m. on Christmas morning when you have to have gifts? available for your family gift exchange, you hope to goodness you have wire in your house. If you have wire in your house, you're good to go. So we're actually going to make our own head pins out of wire for this particular project. So I've got 24 gauge gold filled wire. This will work with 24 gauge, 22 gauge, even 20 gauge, just depending upon what fits through your bead. So I'm going to cut myself off a piece of that 24 gauge wire, and I'm going to start attaching some of these beads onto my pieces of chain. So I'm going to take my round nose pliers, and round nose are the ones that have the conical barrels. I'm going to take my round nose pliers, and I'm going to grab my wire at the very, very end, and I'm just going to turn the smallest little loop that I possibly can. Okay, I don't have to center it, I just need it to be closed. Can you not wire and not have the strength compromised? Okay, so Megan has an interesting question. Can you not wire and not have the strength compromised? So the answer is yes, you cannot wire, and it actually will get stronger. It'll get stiffer because every time you move the wire, you harden it. You harden it in shape. What you can't do though is then unknot it, re-knot it, re-manipulate it unless you have the facility to anneal it, because when you move your wire, when you form it, when you harden it, it gets stiffer. That means that it is less ductile. That means that then if you unshape it, reshape it, unshape it, reshape it, it gets stiffer, it gets harder, and it gets more brittle, and eventually what's going to happen is it's going to snap. So yes, if you wanted instead of a loop to make a cute little knot in your wire, absolutely do it. That's awesome, but then don't change your mind. You're stuck with that. So in my case, I'm going to go with a loop like so. You need to make sure that that loop is big enough that your wire, sorry, not your wire, your bead is not going to come off the end of it. And then we're going to attach this to the selected piece of chain. For me, that's going to be the longest piece, which is my 5 links, with a basic wire wrapped loop. Your basic wire wrapped loop, which those of you who are regulars on the Beading Dream stream know all about. Good night. Thank you so much for everything. I'll see you tomorrow, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Your basic wire wrap loop is something that we do a lot on the Beading Dream stream. It's an integral part of a lot of our projects. It's pretty much the best way to attach things together short of soldering. So it starts with our round nose pliers. Those are the ones with the rounded conical noses. So we're going to start with our round nose pliers in our dominant hand. I'm a right-handed person, so that means my left hand is my plier hand. So we're going to go ahead and use our non-plier hand to push our wire away from us over our wire that makes a 90-degree angle. Now, I'm going to hang on to my wire and my bead. I'm going to loosen my wire, rotate my wire an eighth of a turn, and grab again. I'm going to grab right on that corner that I just made. Now, I'm going to take my wire, pull it back up over the top of my pliers and down until it hits my bead. And what I want to do is I want to make sure to pull that wire nice and firmly so that I am forming a round loop, or starting to form a round loop around my round nose pliers. The problem here is though that I can't finish the loop because this jaw of my pliers is in the way. So I'm going to loosen my pliers, rotate that out of the way, and then finish my loop by going underneath my pliers and away from me. And this makes what we know on the Beading Dream stream as our lady with a scarf. So the lady with a scarf is basically a completed loop before wrapping. Now I'm going to take my lady with the scarf, I'm going to take the wire, and I'm going to thread that onto my chain. So I'm going to thread the wire onto my chain like so. Make sure I feed that chain all the way up and into that loop exactly like that. Then I'm going to grab my chain nose pliers, or in this case my flat nose pliers, because that's what I grabbed when I was about to stream. Hold across that loop like so, and then I'm going to wrap starting at the base of my loop down until I reach my bead. And when you're wrapping, you just want to pull nice and firmly on that wire and wrap around so they get nice tight wraps, and you want them to be nice and close together. So this you know, neat and tidy look is definitely desirable, and that's what you want. that's something that does come with practice. So if you have just started learning how to do a basic wire wrap and you're not able to achieve that yet, don't worry. You only have to do about 200 or 300 more wire wraps and it'll be easy as cake. Go ahead and, won't drop your bead if you're me, go ahead and take your wire cutters, get them in as close as possible to your coil. Now you want to make sure not to chop the edge off of that loop there, so get as close as you can without destroying all of the hard work that you just did. And then use your, and chain nose pliers really are better for this, but again, I was in a hurry, so I grabbed a flat nose. What you want to do is you want to take that end and you just want to press that down so you don't have a sticking out part, and that is one piece attached to your chain. Also, hey, even more viewers, welcome to the Beading Dream stream, welcome to Wednesday night, the week of Christmas, welcome to Everyone is Panicking, including me. It's a thing. And welcome to projects that you can make, hopefully, with things that, I do not know why my shirt keeps doing that, really don't. Yeah, welcome to projects that you can make, hopefully, with things that you have hanging around your house or in your stash, or that you can easily access via your local bead store. By the way, anybody who's local in Dallas, guess what? We are open tomorrow, Thursday the 23rd, from 1 p.m. to 6 p.m. We are open on Christmas Eve from 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. So, for those of you who are desperate, your local bead shops are here for you. However, if we're not your local bead shop, definitely call them, because a lot of local bead stores and local businesses do close on Christmas Eve. So don't just like show up at the door and look in there forlornly because nobody's there. Like, call and verify the hours before you go. Okay, so the dead stuff's attached. Next up is the pyrite. Same technique. So grab my wire, grab my pliers, okay, there we go. Yeah, so Megan says that the bead stores in Cali are closed, or at least in her area of Cali, are closed on the 24th. So yeah, just, you know, anytime you're dealing with small businesses, like, just call and check first. Don't assume, and especially, it's still pandemic Christmas time, so definitely do not assume, because whatever. I'm sorry, Lori. Turbo can relay to you the instructions through his cat telepathic mind powers. Okay, so I'm going to take my round nose pliers and I'm going to, again, roll a loop like so. Make sure it's completely closed. And I'm going to grab my pyrite. This pyrite has no hole. And now it's on the floor. So, right. Oh, so Laura's having turbo issues and I'm having pyrite issues. So, you know, I think we're just going to be safe with it. It's Christmas week and we're having issues. Okay, so that pyrite had no hole. I'm going to use this bead instead that does have a hole. This is a sterling silver bead that's formed to look like a rock. So I'm going to drop that onto my wire, and again, basic wire wrap loop. So away, rotate, back up over the top, rotate underneath. Would you, Mary? I don't know. Would it be good or bad to be formed to look like a rock? I'm unclear. Thread that onto my chain just like I did before. I did a dance piece in college where we all were living rock creatures. That was pretty cool. Well, people, to be fair, people don't typically ask questions of rocks. But dissemination of information is your superpower, so wouldn't that be a waste of your superpower if nobody asked you any questions? Or would that give you more freedom to just disseminate the information that you wanted to in the forums and time frames that you wanted to? Interesting questions. Would you rather be a librarian or a rock? People ask your stupid questions. Well, yeah, welcome to retail at the holidays. So now we're going to wrap. Again, we're going for that nice tight coil look. I'm going to take my cutters, trim, and then use my flat pliers to just take that end, press it down so that we don't have any pokey stabby bits. Alright, now we're on to, let's see, I've got one more thing to wire wrap, and then the other ones are jump rings. So the last thing to wire wrap is going to be my blue Buddha bead, and I think I have just enough wire to do that, so lucky me. So again, take your diamonds are technically minerals. And anybody who has more knowledge than me on this subject is welcome to veto me on this, but I'm pretty sure diamonds are minerals, and technically a rock is a conglomeration of minerals. People tend to apply the word rock to minerals and rocks as a whole, but I think technically rocks are multiple mineral components, and minerals are, you know, single mineral components. But yes, Lori is not wrong. They do all get called rocks in slang. All right, last one. I'm gonna make a loop. Ta-da! Take my Buddha, drop it on there, and then another basic wire wrap loop. I mean, I also think as far as like getting your ashes turned into a diamond, you're looking at, once again, you know, sentimental value is the key there. It's just like, you know, great-great-aunt Georgina's earring on this necklace. Hypothetical. Great-great-aunt Georgina's earring on this necklace. It's like the value's not actually in the earring. The value is in the sentiment. Okay, so I took that, I fed it onto my chain. Now I'm going to take my flat pliers, hold across that loop. When you're holding across that loop, the goal is to hold the wire loop. You are probably going to wind up incidentally also holding the chain, but that's not the goal. That's just kind of a side effect, and then we're going to coil down until we get to our bead, like so, and then trim that off. I mean, it is an interesting topic to discuss, and then press down your end. And also, you know, it's nice to make your wishes known. It's a topic that is oftentimes avoided, and so therefore, you know, if something sudden does happen, how would you know? You know, if you haven't talked about it, how would you know what your daughter actually wanted? A diamond, a mineral composed of pure carbon, yes, I do know that. I would debate that I think diamonds being the most popular gemstone is purely a marketing ploy thought up by diamond manufacturers, but anyway, that's a whole different topic of discussion. Okay, so now I've got my two charmy bits that I'm going to add to my other two pieces of chain. These are going on with jump rings. So this one actually has one that comes with it, which is awesome. So we're going to open that up, and no, my hands are not strong enough to do that. So I'm going to use two pairs of pliers to twist that jump ring open. Whenever you're opening a jump ring, remember, you don't want to open it by flattening it. You want to twist it out of plane. That way you preserve this circle. It's easier to get it back closed nicely. So drop your chain on, and then just reverse your motion. Make sure that your edges are touching to the point where you can't get a fingernail in there. And then this little vintagey piece obviously has no jump ring, so I'm going to access one of my 6mm 20 gauge jump rings, but I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to twist it open, like so, attach that onto my chain, and then twist it closed. Okay, so now I've got all of my components ready to go. I've got all of my chain pieces here with all their bits attached. I've got my clasp. Now here's the thing about clasps, especially toggle clasps, is a lot of times they are sold like this. which can be confusing to people who are new-ish to this. The reason they're sold like this is because you've got the loop and the bar, and they're attached with a jump ring. So this way they don't go astray from each other before they're sold. Otherwise, you oftentimes will wind up with, you know, all loops and no bars, or vice versa. So there's always going to be one ring that is open. Just open it up and use it to disconnect the two pieces. So it's just making sure those two pieces get sold together. But it is confusing for some people because they're like, how does this work? And it's just a regular toggle. It's nothing weird or different. It's just attached so that you make sure you get both pieces when you purchase the item. Okay, so we're going to start by attaching our neck chain, which remember I cut at about 17 inches because I figured my toggle and my jump rings were going to add about 1 inch. And I'm going to attach that with 2 of these 6mm 20 gauge jump rings that I said we needed when we were talking tools and supplies. So I'm just going to open that up, and I am using my round nose pliers as my second pliers in this. If you have a second chain nose or flat nose, it's actually a little easier, but I don't have one sitting in my work area right now, so I'm just using my round nose because it's what's handy. So drop your jump ring on your clasp, drop your chain on your clasp, and then close it up. And let's talk for just a moment about jump rings, okay? So in order to have jump rings that function well, no, saving jump rings from toggles is totally, you can even reuse it on this exact same project if you want to, Megan. So no, it's not. The only thing that's going to make a jump ring weak is if it's been opened and closed too many times, which usually is not the case when you're taking one just off a toggle. But let's talk for a second about jump rings, because sometimes they get a bad reputation for not being secure, and usually that's because people aren't using them properly. So you want to make sure, like I said at the beginning of the broadcast, always get jump rings that are heavy enough to handle everything that you need them to handle. And once again, I normally don't use any jump rings that are thinner than 20 gauge or 18 gauge. Number 2, make sure you always close your jump rings completely. You want the two ends to touch each other. You can't see any light in between. And that is what makes jump rings function well versus falling apart. Okay, so now I have my necklace chain attached to 1/2 of my toggle, which in this case was my toggle bar. I'm going to do the same thing with my toggle loop with another jump ring. So twist it open. Make sure you're actually twisting it at the opening. Twist it open. Drop your chain on. Drop your ring on. And twist it closed. There you go. That's your necklace part. Now we're going to attach all of our dangle bits to our toggle loop. Again, back to our 6mm jump rings. Now when you're doing this, you want to make sure that you have a jump ring that's big enough to go easily around that toggle loop, okay? So you don't want to use something that's too small. That's why I recommended the 6mm, because that's a good size to go around most everything. Twist it open. Thread on your dangling bit. Thread it onto your toggle. So see, there's plenty of room there. It's not a tight fit at all, which is great. And then close it up. Like so. Again, completely closed. Now repeat with your next. Another jump ring. Open it up by twisting it. Grab your next piece. Now, if there's a front and back to your piece, which there is, to this one you want to try and make sure that you have all the fronts facing the same way. Alright, again, close that up completely. Third one. actually get it on the toggle. Alright, so if you were going to stop at 3, that's what it would look like. Totally full enough, totally looks good. Since I made 5, I'm going to go ahead and just finish it out with the 5 that I had originally planned. And of course, if you want to be extra, you can go with 7, you can go with 9. Open. So that's actually a really astute question. So Lori asked, if you have pieces that have a front and a back, do you want the clasp to be right or left-handed? And that's going to depend on to whom you're giving it, but I think the deeper question there is what means right and left-handed as far as a toggle clasp goes. I'm going to add my dead stuff last. So you typically will want the, and this is actually somewhat multi-layered, which I'm going to try and dispatch in the next couple of minutes, because of course we do have a sale starting in 30 minutes at 7:45. So when you're doing any kind of clasp, you typically want the more complicated side of your clasp to be in the dominant hand of the person who's using it. So with a toggle clasp, you want the bar portion that requires more manipulation to be in your dominant hand. So for myself, that would be the right hand, but it's opposite if you're putting it behind your neck versus if you're putting it in front of your neck. So because actually, oh, there we go. Yeah, so because what happens here is if it's behind my neck, I'm doing the whole thing with my right hand. If I'm doing it in front of my neck, what I'm actually doing is I'm doing it with my left hand, and so what I should actually do is I should flip it around so that again I'm holding it with my right hand. So it's a little bit awkward to figure out. Sometimes you have to kind of bend your brain around it a bit, but you typically want the bar side of the toggle to be in the dominant hand. So then you just need to figure out, are you clasping in the back, are you clasping in the front, and then that's how you figure the fronts of your pieces accordingly. Now the good thing about this design is that it does tend to kind of just swing around and be a little bit organic and freeform, and so even if you put things on backwards, it's not always going to be noticeable. But that, everybody out there, is our assemblage necklace. So again, something hopefully that you can do with things that are in your stash or in your house if you need a last minute holiday gift. I cut a 17-inch chain, Megan, to make an 18-inch necklace. So whatever you want for your finished necklace length, just subtract the length of your clasp, and don't forget the jump rings are going to add a little bit as well. So my clasp was 3/4, but I subtracted a full inch because these jump rings are a solid almost 1/4 of an inch in length. So that's it for our Wednesday evening live tutorial stream. Thank you all so much for hanging out with us on the first of our last minute Christmas gift streams. For anybody who doesn't know me, I'm Allison from Beading Dreams in Dallas, Texas. We are an actual brick and mortar retail bead store. We are here still to help you with all of your Christmas present needs. If you are local in Dallas, we can help you with handmade gifts. We can help you make your own handmade gifts. We can help you with parts, pieces, repairs, and all those things. We're here tomorrow from 1 p.m. to 6 p.m. and Friday from 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. We are, of course, closed on Saturday for Christmas Day. If you're not local in Dallas, you can find us on this channel. Excuse me. Twitch.tv/Beading Dream. Typically 5 times a week we normally we normally stream Wednesday through Saturday at 6 p.m. Central Time, plus Thursdays at noon. And then live merchandise sales every Wednesday and Saturday at 7:30 p.m. Or 30 minutes after the broadcast, which means this evening's sale is going to be closer to 7:45, since of course it is Wednesday. So it's time for me to get ready for that sale. So I will see you all back on this channel, twitch.tv twitch.tv/beading dream, and just 30 minutes for a live merchandise sale. It's going to be loads of fun. We've got some fun stuff for you tonight. So everyone, if you're not joining us for the sale, don't forget we have a stream tomorrow at noon and tomorrow at 6 p.m. We're foregoing Torch Thursday in favor of more last minute Christmas gifts. So we got some fun stuff for you tomorrow. So tune in at twitch.tv/beading dream tomorrow at noon, tomorrow at 6. If we're not going to see you tonight for the sale or tomorrow, have a wonderful, yay, Mary! Have a wonderful weekend. Have a great holiday, and hopefully we'll catch you back on this channel, twitch.tv/beading dream really soon. Alright, so for those of you who I'm about to see on the sale, don't forget to grab yourself a cocktail, get comfy, get cozy, get ready for some retail therapy in the comfort of your living room, office, or wherever you are watching the Beading Dream stream. I'm going to go grab some awesome merchandise to sell to you guys tonight, and I'll see you back on this channel, twitch.tv/beading dream in half an hour.